Hello, everybody. If you can just stand by, we're going to give a few minutes to let everybody come into the room. But if you can go ahead and mute your microphones for me, that would be helpful to keep the feedback to a minimum because we're expecting a pretty large crowd today.
Jeanette, I can't see on my screen anymore, but what do you say we go ahead and get started?
Sounds great. I'm ready to do that, Mark. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to the West Point Association of Graduates webinar, much awaited, where we're having two guests to discuss the Army West Point Athletic Association. So before we get started, I'd just like to mention some admin and housekeeping um, some points. If you could change your name up in the upper right-hand corner, if you go to the three dots, you can rename your screen. And if you want to put your name and your class year, if you're a grad, or if you're with a society, you might want to put that as well. If you could make sure that you mute yourself during the call. And if you have a question, you can use the raise hand feature. And we'll probably, because we have a lot to go over, we'll go through our briefings first and then take questions. We are recording the call and that's already started. So we would just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. So what I'd first like to do is just acknowledge and welcome some of our guests that are with us on board today. We have two of our board members, our West Point AOG board members, Lieutenant General Guy Swan, class of 76, and Tony Gates, class of 81. And we also have one of our DGAs, Lieutenant General Dave Halverson, class of 79. And we also have, we just like to acknowledge Major General John Grinwald's class of 59. We also want to mention that we have an Army Sports Hall of Fame member, John Connors, class of 70, with us today. And that's just really great given our topic of discussion. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce, or I'd also like to mention a few other of our guests on. We have Mark Beeger, the president and CEO of West Point AOG. And we have the Vice President for Alumni Support, Terrence Sinkfeld, and the Executive Director of Alumni Support Engagement, Debbie Edlin. And I hope I haven't forgotten anybody. All right. So at this point, though, I would like to, I know you're all VIPs in my book. So, but what I'd like to do, and I really do want to thank everybody for joining us and for, because you're all volunteers and I know this is your personal time. So we're going to jump right into it because I know you're really excited. So today we have two guests. We have Corky Messner, and Corky actually is the founding partner of Messner Reeves. He took a company and he built it into a national full services business law firm with offices in over 10 cities. He now resides in New Hampshire and Lake Wentworth, and he does quite a bit there for the preservation of the watershed area on lakes and streams and critical habitats in that area. He's class of 79 and is a ranger, has two sons that are currently attending the academy. And um, he is the chairman of the board of the Army West Point Athletic Association. So we're really excited to hear what he has to say about that today. With him, double teaming on on this webinar is our athletic director, Theo, and and I guess because I can say that because we're friends, as you mentioned earlier, Debbie. He is himself a student athlete from the start, a graduate of Syracuse. He came to us from Harvard, and also he spent time at the University of Arizona and UCLA in his long career. When he came to Army West Point, he led us amazingly and very quickly as the 31st athletic director. When he came in February of 25, in that year to where we were able to regain the Star Series, a huge win for us at West Point. And then just weeks later, we were also won the Patriot League President's Cup. The work that he's done with partnerships with Nike and Levy and USAA has just been incredible to bring our programs the full direction of, and he's got an incredible a strategic plan for the association. So I'm going to turn it over to Corky and Theo and let them begin. Any questions before we get started?
All right. All right, Jeanette, thank you so much. Can everybody hear me? If you can't hear me, someone. Okay, awesome. Awesome. I'm Corky Messner, class of 79. And Jeanette, my sons would be very upset to find out that they're still cadets. They are class of 2020 and class of 2022. But I forgive you. They forgive you. Um, I'm chairman of the board of the Army West Point Athletic Association, which is a New York nonprofit 501c3 corporation. And we work very, very closely with AOG, and I'm going to get into the history of how we came about. But I want to thank Mark Beeger and his team for putting this together. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this, I was at a golf outing with a bunch of my classmates down in Charleston in April, and I was talking to a friend, a classmate who knows me well, and we started talking about the Army West Point Athletic Association, and it became clear to me that he didn't know much about it. And it became particularly clear to me that he didn't know much about it when he said, well, the Army is still funding all the athletics at West Point. And I said, no. And I think Theo will get into that some, but I think right now the grant from the Army funds about 12% of our budget. So how did this come about? In 2013, I met Boo Corrigan, who was the director of athletics at the time, and we connected pretty much from the start. And he let me know. He said, Corky, we have done a study of Army athletics and why now we have lost to Navy 11 years in a row. And we've come up with a series of recommendations that we ought to implement in order for our athletics to become more competitive. One of which is the creation of a separate entity, the Army West Point Athletic Association, which will allow then the athletic department to enter into long-term contracts, to do sponsorship deals, to be competitive on salaries. Prior to AWPAA, everybody in the athletic department were civilian employees of the Army, and with severe limitations. And I'll give you an example of a limitation. Back then, for the Army-Navy game, we would cut a deal. I should say Navy would cut a deal with Philadelphia, and we could not enter into that contract, but now we can. So it allows us to operate like a business, quite frankly. But one of the things I say at every board meeting, and I say to Theo over and over again, that our number one priority at AWPAA is to support the mission of graduating leaders of character at West Point. That always will be our number one priority. So in order to set this up, we literally needed an act of Congress. So in November 2015, President Obama and it signed the legislation. I think it was November, creating or allowing the Army to create this separate entity. And Boo said, "Gee, would I be willing to help? Because I'm a lawyer, I'm a business lawyer, I have a business law firm." So we helped set up the Army West Point Athletic Association. It took us some time, and the main reason it took some time is we had to negotiate and sign a very thick contract with the Army. It's called the Cooperative Agreement, and I'll get into that some. And it took until about mid 2017 until we got the cooperative agreement signed, and then all the employees of ODIA left the Army as a civilian employee of the Army and became employees of the Army West Point Athletic Association. That was about mid-year 2017. And so we started out it was Raleigh Stitchway, who's been very involved in athletics for a long time, and Boo Corrigan and and me on the board of directors at the beginning. So we set out to build this new company, and it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey for a number of reasons. But now today we have a board of, I think let me just walk through who's on the board. Under the cooperative agreement, the Secretary of the Army selects 3 board members, and right now it's the G1 of the Army, the COM, and the Dean. And then the rest of the board members, all of whom have to be approved by the superintendent, are Theo, the athletic director, myself, Anthony Noto, he's the CEO of SoFi, John Ferrari. John is a retired 2-star general, and he's recently retired, and I wanted to get him on the board because he was, in fact, the person who was in the Army negotiating the cooperative agreement. So he knows that document as good as anybody. And one of the things that we try to do with our board members is to find people with a skill set that will help us accomplish our mission. And so John Ferrari is on the board. John Stoner is on the board. Oh, hey, John, how are you? And John's been fantastic. And as we improve and elevate and become smarter, better, more efficient, one of the things John was able to do was to bring in McKinsey to look at all of our systems. And this happened in the last 6 months, 8 months, to look at all of our systems and help us operate more effectively, more efficiently. And McKinsey did that on a pro bono basis, so it didn't cost us anything. Bob Brown is on the board. Bob, a retired 4-star. He's now president of the Association of the U.S. Army. Dave Halverson's on this call, my classmate. Hi, Halvey. He used to be on the board and rotated off. Ellen Houlihan, Sonny Uberti, Rob Healy, Jim Knowlton, who was the athletic director at the University of California, and before that at the Air Force Academy. Donna Brazel is on the board. And who'd I forget? Lauren Graves is on the board, and Rob Healy. Our board members, we have a rotating term. It's a 3-year term, and they're staggered. And our bylaws allow each board member to have an additional 3-year term. And then with board approval, you can go beyond that. Now, I would encourage anybody, if you want to be on our board, send me an email, corkymessner@gmail.com. And because what we're doing is we're building a roster of future board members. And Donna Brazel, she runs our nominating and governance committee, and she'll reach out. I'll forward the email to her. She'll reach out to the person, uh, and find out the skill set and see if there's a need. And there may be an immediate need. There may be a need some years down the road. But we want to invite everybody to participate in the AWPAA. It's very important. Now, the other important factor to understand in the cooperative agreement, the superintendent, has oversight authority over AWPAA. So he could call me right now and say, Corky, I don't like you. I want you to walk away, and I walk away. So, yes, we're a separate nonprofit corporation, but contractually, the superintendent has oversight authority over us. So when someone wants to come on the board, the superintendent has to approve that person. And you might have heard that we've recently signed a sponsorship deal with USAA. The superintendent had to approve that transaction. And to give you an example of how we operate, when Mike Buddy left last year, the process we went through to hire a new athletic director, and this is a great story, by the way. I'm very proud of this. The superintendent and I, we formed the committee. Some of our board members were on the committee. Some faculty from West Point was on the committee. Bob McDonald, the chairman of AOG, was on the committee. General Dempsey was on the committee. The G1 from the Army was on the committee. We received, I think, a total of 80 applicants. Out of those applicants, we determined 36 were qualified. Of the 36 qualified applicants, 18 were sitting athletic directors. So the interest in the position at West Point was remarkable. And through that process, the committee narrowed it down to 8, and then it narrowed it down to 4. And we had the 4 finalists come to West Point for interviews with the superintendent and myself. Theo was the winner of that contest, and we're very, very pleased with that decision. He's doing just an outstanding job. So I want to make sure. I know there were some questions. I think I covered most of them. But if you have any questions, please ask at the end. The other thing I want to offer up to everybody is I'm willing to have this kind of call with your group and the members in your group. And again, my email is corkymessner@gmail.com. My phone number is 303-618-0823. Reach out to me, and I'm glad to do a call with your membership and answer any questions that you might have. Theo?
Thank you, Corky. And Jeanette, thank you as well. And everyone with the AOG, appreciate your help and continued partnership. What Jeanette did not mention is that all the hard questions go to Corky. So please make note of that. Listen, Corky said I was the winner of a contest. I think that's a great way to put it, to be honest with you. Every single day, I am extremely fortunate to serve as your athletic director. To to serve as the director of athletics for these amazing men and women who decided to raise their right hand and defend the Constitution. It's something I never take for granted. It's a responsibility that weighs heavy on me, and just know every single day I'm giving it my all. And I think I'm just so fortunate to now be in this position about a year and a half now. So for me, I want to start off with the why. And I think if we can go to the second page of the presentation, please. I get asked often, okay, what's your roadmap to, what's your vision for Army athletics? Listen, I think it starts here, right? It's upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that upon other fields and other days will bear the fruits of victory. One of the best parts about West Point is that's a quote from over 100 years ago from General MacArthur, and it's probably more applicable today than it's ever been. What our cadet athletes are learning, what they're doing on the fields, those skills, they translate. They translate again now more than ever to what they're going to do as second lieutenants, what they're going to do as commissioned officers. And our job within the athletic department is to continue to develop leaders of character and the very best second lieutenants, which, by the way, is not mutually exclusive from winning. Winning matters here at the academy. We don't shy away from that. So what does winning mean? It means beating Navy. It means beating Air Force. It means winning the Commander-in-Chief trophy. That stuff's important. I don't shy away from that. Conference championships are important. Making the NCAA tournament's important. And all of our coaches know that. And I think as we go through this, I think it's important to know what we're grounded in and kind of what's our North Star. And that's this quote right here. And what we did, and it's aptly named, this is our strategic plan. And you can see that online. If you get the opportunity, I'd ask you to go visit. Our strategic plan is printed online, called Fruits of Victory. And it's really rooted in four priorities. I talked about competitive success. That's winning. I mentioned that in great detail. Number two is provide an extraordinary Division I experience. What does that mean? That's everything from facilities to making sure that we're doing our best to give them great experiences on the road. And I would challenge actually all of you that are on this call with that. So what do I mean by that? When our cadet athletes are on the road, it's important they see you, right? I think they notice when Army fans are in the stands on the road. So whether it's you can get your societies together and then host tailgates or just be cheering in the stands, one thing we heavily encourage is that if the Black Knights, no matter what sport they're playing in, if they're in your backyard or close to it, be there to support them. And I think you'd be amazed about the men and women that you're seeing compete because they're doing remarkable things. So we want to make sure that across the board that they have tremendous experience here at the Academy. Number three is public engagement and revenue generation. And I think this ties heavily with the AOG. I love what they say in being the most connected body, alumni body in the country. I think that's what we want to do too. We're in lockstep with that. I don't shy away from revenue generation. That's important. And I'll get in more detail about that. But, we need to continue to find opportunities to raise money here. And that's everything from the A Club and sports specific giving, which we've taken a huge initiative with that and volunteers to raise money for specific sports, to sponsorships, as Corky mentioned. So, and finding opportunities with the Mikey Stadium Preservation Project, live events, and we'll get into more detail there. And lastly is sustainability. What are we doing as a department to make sure what we're doing is sustainable, that we can continue to do this and do it at a high level? So I share this document with you and this strategic plan only to say all of our decision-making is rooted in this document. It's our roadmap. And as we continue to evolve in this crazy landscape of college athletics, this is who we are. This is what we're about. And by the way, it doesn't mean we can't win. And I think this next slide will show you this is what success looks like on and off the fields of friendly strife. What I love on the right-hand side is this is cadet athletes that are have leaderships within the Corps, right? So we don't shy away from this. So some of our best cadet athletes are ones that have leadership positions within the Corps, and they're represented there, not just football players and Andon Thomas, but we have Bridget Duffy, who's women's lacrosse soccer. We have women's rugby. We have softball, men's basketball. Across the board, we have rabble-rousers that have leadership positions within the Corps. And then on the left, I mentioned some of them, but athletics highlights from this past year. We've won several conference championships. We've made it to the NCAAs. Our football team went to the Fenway Bowl, beat up on UConn on national TV. This is important. And I think you've all heard the cliche before, but college athletics can be the front porch to an institution. So what do I mean by that? I mean, when people watch the Army Navy game every single year, that's 7 million people watching West Point every single year. And I think that's a commercial for us. That's an opportunity to tell the story of West Point. And you guys have seen that game on TV where they do a great job telling our story. And that's everything from the cadet schedule, showing the rigors of what a cadet schedule looks like. Compare us to any other Division I school. We're not taking online classes, right? We still have MX 400. All these things still exist at the academy, and they're part of who we are. We don't shy away from that. So, playing games on national TV when we won the American Conference Championship 2 years ago, that was on ABC, and that was at Mikey Stadium. That was the first time we actually hosted a home football game at Mikey Stadium. That was on ABC national TV. It had over 2 million views. And in the background, they showed the chapel and West Point and the beautiful landscape. So I talked about athletics as a responsibility, but there's a way that if we continue to win, that we can continue to promote and recruit at a high level for this institution, whether it's athletes or not. But that also is a responsibility to make sure we do the right thing. If we do something wrong, that's also on ESPN. So it is really beholden on us to make sure we hire the right coaches, that they understand the mission of this institution, what we're about, that we don't cut corners, that we are compliant. And that's my job to make sure we continue to follow in those footsteps. Next slide. Corky, I think you talked about a lot of this, correct? This is kind of the transition from athletics, ODIA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can skip through this. The next slide, I'd say probably it's more applicable now, is slide 11. And thank you, Corky, for going through the history here. And we talked about the board members. Next slide, please. There's a slide that starts with AWPAA by the numbers. Yeah, keep going. There we go. So again, just going by the athletic department, kind of a breakdown here. We have over 180 employees, over 80 coaches. As all of you know, our coaches are around our cadets more than anybody. So when we talk about hiring coaches, even assistant coaches, that's a big responsibility. They need to understand what the academy is about. They need to be well versed in who we are as an institution, and making sure they kind of follow lead with, again, what's going on at the academy. So that is a diligent process, and we do our due diligence in finding head coaches. And the last year and a half, we've hired, I really think, some amazing coaches, and that's everything from promoting Zach McKelvey, our ice hockey coach, to our women's rugby, wrestling, women's basketball, Katie Kuster, who actually won the Maggie Dixon Coach of the Year for Division I, Rookie Coach of the Year, to just hiring now a wrestling coach who did a great job last year, and then our new swim and dive coach. So when we go through this process, we don't hide what Army is. We talk about how important it is, again, to win, but we also say, you know what, this is what this job is. You're not going to get our cadets for a long extended amount of time. They might come to you and they're tired from other things that they have going on here at the academy, other requirements, other obligations. So we make sure they understand what this place is about, that we don't shy away from who we are. We have them meet with ORs. We try to have them meet with USMA leadership as well, so they have a full picture and the realities of this job. And our hope is that people are running towards this job, not away from it, or shying away from who we are. So we've had success in this process. It's gone very well in the sense of when these jobs open up at the academy, I can just tell you firsthand, they're very attractive. People across the country recognize the Army West Point brand, what it represents, what it produces. And every time we have a coach opening, it's very exciting to see about how people sit there and say, you know what, I'd want to work at a place like Army. I want to be at a place like West Point. And they love the values of what this place represents.
Hey, Theo,
Yes,
how
sir.
about the women's lacrosse coach and the story about her and the great job she's doing and how she was recruited to leave West Point to her alma mater
Yep.
and turned it down.
Yep. So I have an old adage here, which is I think it's really important that for all of our coaches, top to bottom, and I can use Michelle as an example, certainly. I think as a leader of this athletic department, you want people to want your coaches, right? It could be a lot worse. They could not want your coaches, right? So we want to hire the very best coaches that understand West Point, like I said, but also can perform and win. And Michelle Tumlo is a great example of that. Michelle, if you had to create a Mount Rushmore of women's lacrosse players, especially at Syracuse University, Michelle Tumlo is on Mount Rushmore. She, I think, is close to the leading points, leading in goals and maybe even assists in lacrosse. And Michelle had an opportunity this past year. She was getting recruited to go to Syracuse University. That job opened up. And once I kind of knew that job was going to open up, and once it did, I'm fortunate enough to have a great relationship with Michelle that when that job opened up, she was very open with me to say, hey, it's going to take me a lot to leave this place. I love what West Point's about. Most importantly, I love that it's a community. And I think one of the benefits we have is all our coaches live together here on post. And Michelle has a daughter, and they love it here. And they have, other coaches help babysit, so she loves the life here at West Point. And when a job like Syracuse came open, we won that battle, to be candid with you. Syracuse didn't have their ducks in a row. They kind of, I think, maybe even took for granted, Michelle, that she'd want to come to Syracuse. And you know what? We continue to lay out a vision for her and her program where she can win here at a high level, and that, it's a great place to live and she can make an impact. And she just believes in this institution. So, you know what? She actually turned down Syracuse to go through that whole process. I have no problem saying this. It was something that she just felt even more comfortable being at here at West Point, even when her alma mater was calling for her. So I think it speaks to what we're building here, the community we're building here, and really excited for Michelle. But to be candid with you, I can say that across a lot of our coaches. Katie Kuster this past year, women's basketball, as I mentioned, won Rookie of the Year as far as coach nationally. And there were 3 colleges that called me right after asking to talk to her about a head coaching position somewhere else. And Katie again, turned them down because of what we're doing here. So I say all this again because I think we have a great thing going, but also we need to keep up. We can't rest on our laurels. We need to continue to invest in West Point and these amazing coaches who are not only winning, but honestly recruiting great men and women that are going to be leaders in our Army. So going back to, this is my senior leadership team. So I'm smart enough to know I don't have all the answers. And I think for me, it was really important, being the athletic director, to surround myself with really, really talented, experienced deputy ADs. So I have 5 basically deputy ADs that serve underneath me that, under the umbrella of athletics, handle a lot, where I can be on the road for Founders Days for 8 weeks and feel very comfortable with them handling everything that's going on, boots on the ground here. So if you haven't had the opportunity to meet them, Dan McCarthy, Tricia Brandenburg, a new Alicia Oliver, who's now overseeing our compliance, Shane Bell, and then Kelly Calloway, who serves as our deputy military AD. All are serving in deputy AD roles and are a tremendous asset to me. Next slide. We have over 30 athletic teams here at the Academy, NCAA teams. That also counts the rabble-rousers, strength, and rifle. That's a lot for Division I athletics, especially given the amount of athletes that we have here at the Academy and the overall core. So as a whole, I will tell you what's going on in college athletics right now is programs are overspending. They're spending a lot of money on football. They're spending a lot of money on men's basketball. And you've read programs are cutting sports. Most recently, Arkansas decided to cut tennis and then actually reinstated it. There are swimming programs that are being cut. Marshall was one example. But across the board, the finance of college athletic departments and this kind of bubble of how much they're spending and continue to spend on football is really having a strain on other sports. I think it's one of the benefits here at the Academy is that we have 30 sports. We do not want to be in the business of cutting sports. We think it's just, again, so imperative to our mission. And we're going to continue the things we're doing to go back to sustainability, which is one of our priorities in our strategic plan. How can we continue not only to maintain these sports, but put them in the best position for success? Next slide. Just want to go over categorically some of our revenues and expenses. I will tell you some of these percentages are out of date. Corky mentioned the federal grant from the Army. That's now down to 12%. So we are not fully funded by the Army. I think that is a misnomer that's out there. And that's why we're on this call. We want to continue to educate folks. And I think, candidly, we've done a terrible job with this. And we've hired a new CFO in Katie DeMarco, who is going to help us tell this story better. So that's something I'm looking forward to doing and really having a bit more transparency on this process to say, hey, this is the position we're in, and this is why we need your dollars. So the federal grant, again, is around 12%. We also have revenue streams that come in through sponsorship and media rights. So kind of basically TV deals, donations. So the A Club, which serves as our general fund to operate. And then also I mentioned sports-specific giving, which has been a huge initiative for us the past year and a half. Really relying on volunteers to help fundraise for our sports. And General Ken Dahl for lacrosse is a great example of that. He really helped set a template and a model for success in this space where we're relying on volunteers to kind of come together. He's been teaching them best practice. For each sport, we now have volunteers to help raise money. And our job is to continue to talk about things like the endowment, which is more long-term fundraising, to team funds, which is more short-term. So we continue to target parents of cadet athletes, but also former alums. And I think we've made tremendous progress the last 2 years, and that program's only going to continue to grow. I think a lot of you on this call participated also in Giving Day, which is in December, and that's been a record-breaking day for us almost every single year, where we've had folks throughout the day contribute at such a high level and have an impact throughout specific sports, but also our general fund with the A Club. So other items, we do have events, things like renting out our facilities, NCAA distributions. Camps continue to be a great opportunity for us to bring in revenue. And camps is really something I love. Actually, I was a former camper here at Army. It's a way for me to see West Point for the first time. So things like camps, I think, are of tremendous value, not just from a financial standpoint, but for young men and women to see what the Academy is about and see it for the first time. So, and actually, a lot of our cadets now were former campers for specific sports. So it's, I think, such an important piece to what we do. Next slide, please. And then specifically with our sport programs, what are they spending their money on? I will tell you, team travel continues to cost more money. Things like gas. We are a bus league as far as the Patriot League, but even things like hockey or football, we're taking planes there a good amount of time. So, that's something where we continue to have escalated costs. But NCAA allows us to now have additional coaches, which has cost more money. We things like game day guarantees to get teams to come play us. That cost continues to escalate. But, for us, it's making sure that our coaches have what they need to be successful. I do not mandate really any scheduling limits for our coaches, but they need to find opportunities where, again, they could have a great experience for their teams, but also, find opportunities to put them in position for success come conference play. So these are done, especially with Katie DeMarco here now serving as our new CFO. I think a process that we're going to continue to enhance and have real-time data that we can closely follow our team's budgets and making sure not only are they staying on par, but we can continue to make data-driven decisions on those programs to make sure that we're thinking long-term for them. Next slide. So for me, I just wanted to talk about the climate as far as college athletics. It is a ever-changing landscape, and I will tell you almost every single day I'm on the phone with commissioners and now politicians to talk about new NCAA rules, new legislation, new acts that are being passed through Congress and the Senate. about what the future of college athletics looks like and the effect it has on the academy. And I'll start off with this. I think many of you are familiar with the transfer portal. Basically, what that is it's an opportunity for student athletes to transfer. And candidly, it's just been way too easy for them to do it. You're now having student athletes that are transferring 4 times in 4 years. It's just not healthy. So I think there's new legislation coming out now that we've been advocating for where you get a one-time transfer, and if it's more than that, you have to sit out a year, kind of basically how it used to be. But that has kind of been abused, and now they're looking to kind of right that ship. I will tell you, as far as transfer numbers within Army West Point, we're actually lower than we have been in previous years. The transfer portal does affect us, and each sport's affected in a couple different ways, but across the board, the amount of transfers is relatively the same as it's always been. I think the hard part for us, if someone, let's just say it's a football player, does leave, we don't have the ability to pick someone new up through the transfer portal. The transfer portal is one way. But to that point, I'll actually speak on the other side of my mouth here. We have had a couple athletes, a couple through tennis and one through women's basketball, that actually went their freshman year to a different institution. So one went to Miami for tennis, for example, and realized, you know what, that experience at Miami is not for me. I was getting recruited by Army. I want to go to Army. And they were willing to actually transfer to Army, reset the clock, and go through beasts. And, we've actually seen that a couple times now. So our coaches continue to maintain relationships with our recruits that even if they decide to go somewhere else, that they have the ability to go back. But no, 100%. I'm seeing it in the chat. We have lost Overbeek, one of our best baseball players, just left from Mississippi State. So there are a couple that obviously leave, but as far as holistically, we're pretty much on par with what we've done throughout our years. Revenue share is now an opportunity for athletes to get paid. So it's the ceiling's up to $20 million that cadets have now. That student athletes have if you opt in for rev share to get paid. So athletic directors have up to $20 million now pay for to pay athletes. So, we make the joke cadets have always been paid, right? But it's obviously a bit different now. But I mentioned escalating costs continue to be a factor in college athletics. And the last thing I'll leave you with is things like the college football playoff expanding have an effect on us, specifically the Army-Navy game. You'll read recently that they want to expand to 24 teams. Why does that affect us? The Army-Navy game always had its exclusive window and exclusive day. Recently they started putting bowl games the same day as Army-Navy, but holistically, candidly, Army-Navy's own the day. And now if they expand the playoff, basically what that means is Army-Navy would share that day with the college football playoff. That's something that we don't want. It's important for us, and we did it 2 years ago, that if we win the American Football Conference, that we want to be able to play in the college football playoff. It's that simple. We owe it to our cadets to do that. So is there a way for us to win the American Conference, play the Army-Navy game, and then also play in the college football playoff? That's what we're asking for. And we have a very great supporter in Tim Pernetti, who I've known for many years, who's the commissioner of the American, who continues to wave the flag for us, continues to advocate for us, not just for the Army-Navy game, but across the board with NCAA legislation. He's saying, you know what, hey, the academy is out there. Make sure when you're making these rules that you understand that, how does it affect our academies? And he's been a great supporter for us. And I will tell you at the highest levels, you had the president putting out an executive order about the Army-Navy game. I think it's there's people that love the game, love what it's about, and want to protect it. So we need to, from my end, we continue to fight on that and make sure that it's in a position where not only is it preserved, but we continue to enhance it and put it on the biggest stage possible. Next slide. I'll just leave you guys with this. There's two more. So the Mikey Stadium Preservation Project, if you all haven't had the opportunity to see that yet, that is a $170 million project, all privately funded. Through philanthropy and support from the AOG and also the SOUP. We're on pace to open it up this summer for the 26 football season. We are completely sold out of seating in the East Stands. So as you all know, Mikey Stadium is more than a football stadium. It's over 100 years old, and our day starts there, right? And that's in a couple weeks here. But yes, football plays there, men's and women's lacrosse plays there. But graduation's also there. And this is an opportunity for us we look at Mikey Stadium in so many ways as a portal. Every single Saturday we get 30,000 plus people coming to Mikey Stadium to learn about what West Point is. A lot of people are not graduates that come here. They're seeing West Point for the first time through an Army football game. So, or maybe that's their first time coming on post. So it's our job to make sure that it's the best experience possible. So this type of investment, the East Stands, is going to have a lot of impact. Number one, it's going to affect the core cadets. So the bottom seating, from end zone to end zone, will now be new seating for the core cadets. So when you watch an Army game on football, you'll see the whole core cadets in the background, which will be a great view for everyone watching it. In addition, there's premium seating, hospitality areas throughout these stands. The top floor is suites, 18 suites, all sold out. Underneath it is loge seating and bench seating. That is all sold out. Premium kind of single back chairs, seats as well, all sold out. So, when they built Mikey 100 years ago, they didn't think of things like suites and premium hospitality areas, but there was a need for it. So obviously it being sold out, there was an appetite. So it's this type of facility enhancement, number one, shows, I think it's just such an important part of the academy, but I think also shows, we can do some other things. We're talking about live events now at West Point, things like concerts, things like, an outdoor NHL game. Now that we have this type of facility, we can attract really some of the top events in the country. And for me, it just connects a lot of iconic areas. You talk about Lusk Reservoir, this Victory Plaza, really awesome areas for the academy now. And it's also going to have a Hall of Fame space. It's also going to have a new gift shop. And now we're working on getting actually a new restaurant there that'll be open Monday through Friday. So I could envision West Point tour buses getting dropped off at Mikey Stadium and, learning more about West Point, which is obviously a goal for us. So excited to have you all see this in person. If you haven't had the opportunity, really, couldn't be excited about the future of West Point. And the next slide I wanted to share with everybody is just our home football schedule. The Soup says this all the time, and I'll reinforce it. There's a lot of noise out there sometimes with West Point. And one of the things we'd encourage all of you to do if you have the opportunity is come visit us in person. And hopefully a football game is an opportunity to do that, but sometimes that's Projects Day, right? Or something else going on here at West Point. But I like to say West Point's undefeated. When people come to visit, you usually leave feeling pretty darn good about this place, about the men and women that are here. They'll look you in the eye. They'll say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And you see the work they're doing. A lot of people make the joke I think the core has gotten a lot better. It's pretty remarkable about what they're doing right now. And I'd encourage all of you, if you get the opportunity, come see it in person. And I'll host you at my house. I live right down the street from the football stadium. I'll have you over. We'd love to have you. But I say all this just because we're so proud of what's going on here at the academy. I appreciate you taking the time to learn more about our department and how athletics plays a role in the mission of this institution. And happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Theo, there's a few questions in the chat. One is, can Army athletes receive NIL money?
Right now, that is against the rules. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Another question is hosting an Army Navy game in the Midwest, St. Louis or Kansas City.
I still hear stories about the Army Navy game at the Rose Bowl. So but I will tell you the Northeast makes sense for us as far as logistics, and I don't want that ever to be the answer about why we move the Army Navy game or why we have it in certain areas. But the Northeast, when we've taken this show on the road, I think has been fruitful for us as far as recruiting and exposure in different pockets. I think New England did a great job with the game. Washington, D.C. is building a new stadium, and the president of the Commanders is a West Point grad, Mark Klaus, class of 90. And what they're envisioning there is enticing. Baltimore did a good job last year. MetLife this year, just met with them yesterday. And then Philly. I'm well aware Philly is a place that makes sense for both institutions too, right? So that being said, though, I do want to continue to challenge the status quo. If there's an opportunity to play it somewhere else, we need to listen to that. But I will tell you, there's inherent challenges, like moving the core cadets, moving the brigade, moving the mids. It's not an easy thing to do. And the answer isn't just put them on an airplane or a train or bus them. They need to have a great experience with this too. So I will tell you, we've had interest from not just the Midwest, but Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Dallas, Atlanta. And we're going to go through that RFP this summer to go through what we want the next round to look like. But we are open-minded, but I will also say the Northeast has been very good to us, and especially this last round.
And
Our hope is
and opening up the last cycle to other cities to respond to an RFP was incredibly beneficial to us, and actually I think got Philadelphia out of the mode of feeling like the Army Navy game was an entitlement.
Complacent, yeah, that's fair to say.
Theo, can
Questions?
I ask a question about the policy that currently exists regarding the possibility of cadets when they're graduating playing professionally? And I ask this because I've been able to follow the lacrosse team pretty well now that we have so much streaming and other access. And I noted with amazement a week or so ago that Evan Plunkett is on the Denver Outlaws right here in town and has got a game in about a week from Saturday. And as I looked at the roster, then I saw that AJ Pilot had been there the year before and is now not on the roster. And so could you give us sort of a top line readout on what is possible for athletes and what is not?
Yeah, so in short, I'll say this. I have the ability personally with the superintendent up to 5 slots, so to speak, for cadets to play professionally. Lacrosse is different, sir. They actually only play on the weekends, so they can get permission to actually go do that. So that sport's a bit different. But as far as the NFL, baseball, NHL, the process is different now. So they actually commission as officers, and then actually will go into the reserves to then pursue their career. We do ask that they have a signed contract and that we actually will continue. They submit a packet to us that really has in-depth background about their skill level, where they're at. I will tell you, we're also heavily invested in the WCAP program that we feel has tremendous value as far as athletes that want to pursue the Olympic track. And I'll use Bridget Duffy as a great example. She's a woman that's has a great shot of playing in LA28 because women's lacrosse is now an Olympic sport. So it's not something we want to abuse. There are expectations and they need to meet a standard. But we work closely with the superintendent to say, is this justified? And I like the process now because it wasn't that way previously that they do commission and go into the reserves.
Theo, there's a question about the Army Air Force game going back to Texas.
Yeah, I'll be candid with you. That's a hard game for me to take away from our season ticket holders. I think whenever I talk to Coach Munkin, it's competitively, does it make sense for us? That game this year, and I hope all of you have it circled, that game's going to be on national television, big CBS, and it's going to be a night game at Michie Stadium. That puts us into the best position for success, and that's going to be a great scene. In the future, is there a way to maybe do one-offs in Texas? I think so. I'll be also honest with you. I don't like football games in baseball stadiums. I think the layout is not something I think is worth the check. So it needs to make sense. It would take us a lot to move that game out of West Point. But I'm open to it.
And this year with the Air Force game on national television at night, it will highlight the East Stands and the Corps cadets in the East Stands, and I think present the new Mikey Stadium, the preserved Mikey Stadium, in a wonderful light for the Academy.
I imagine the storytelling and the beautiful views and the atmosphere and the excitement. It's going to be tremendous. I see a question about the USAA partnership. Yeah, no. So I think what's going on in college athletics right now is I talked about innovative ways to find sponsorship dollars, and the NCAA is allowing to have logos on the field, is allowing to have logos on a jersey. And I made the joke, this isn't Little League, right? If we're going to go down this route, we wanted to use a partner that made sense for West Point. And USA has been involved with West Point for years, obviously, going back to Cal loans, but it's they've partnered with us within the athletic department through the Army Navy game, which is presented by USAA, where we wanted to engage with them in a long-term conversation about really some premium assets, but an opportunity to partner closely with them to make a big investment into our athletic department. I will tell you, we have a great relationship with them across the board, where this conversation came out almost organically to talk about, hey, if we're ever going to go down this route, this is what it would look like. And, I couldn't be happier where we landed. We signed a 20-year deal with USAA where they are making a significant investment in our athletic department. That really touches on every pillar that I mentioned within our strategic plan. That is going to continue to help us grow as an athletic department and serve as a catalyst to help build a new athletic center for excellence, a new home for our athletic department, which is going to help our department in things like recruiting and building culture, building community, and will really be a game changer for us moving forward. So excited to partner with them, and truly someone who knows the academy well, values people, and honestly has been with us during hard times. When we had the flood here, USA was one of the first ones to raise their hand and say, how could they help? How could they help us through a tough time? So to partner with them, it's going to have a huge impact on our department. And candidly, we beat out Navy and we beat out Air Force to it. I think what we were able to put together was something that I think was special, and I think has others saying, wow, how did they do that?
On the this question about the Army West Point Athletics Hall of Fame, let me just say, I actually did some diligence into this not long ago, and I am impressed and satisfied with the thoroughness of that process, the integrity of the people involved in that process, and the fact that it's a confidential process, and I think it should be a confidential process, because we just don't want the people involved in making those decisions to be subject to lobbying all the time. But it is an impressive process with very high integrity, thoroughness, and fairness.
Thanks, Corky. The committee is comprised of graduates from all different eras. It also includes staff members from the AOG, also from our athletics department. Those that have a deep history of not only the academy but our athletics department as a whole. If you get nominated once, you do get nominated in lifetime. So you're on our list, and it's a constant evaluation. And I appreciate. The last thing I want to do is sit there and compare candidates. I think what I love about athletics, it's an emotional business, right? So if someone gets picked, it's like, oh, how come someone, this other person didn't? And I love that. But I will tell you, I've been at that table. It's hard and it's difficult. So I appreciate everyone's enthusiasm about it. One of the great things about West Point is that we have so many darn qualified candidates. And every year it's really, really hard to pick just even a couple individuals. And this year, if you actually look at this year's class across the board, it's absolutely amazing. Rob Dickerson with football. I mean, we have Kelsey Minato was one of the best women's basketball players we've ever had here. And to highlight her, it's going to be really exciting. But the other thing I'll mention is Phil Buttafuoco, who serves as our deputy AD. Phil ran the Patriots Hall of Fame. So, bringing him on board, he's now involved in the process. It's not just a selection, but Phil's really kind of taken the acknowledgement, the event, and the recognition to a higher level, where in the East Stands, we'll now have the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame now is locked up in Kinsey on the 3rd floor, which is hard for people to get to be honest with you. So that's why I kind of like it now in the East Stands. And it'll be more interactive. So when you go to Hall of Fames now, it's not just these static boards, but it's actually interactive where when you can click on names, read bios, see highlights, things of that nature that we're really excited about. And then of the event as a whole, Phil's done some great job in just enhancing what that's going to look like. Even we're honoring people during the football game where I think in totality, he's just honestly elevating the standard there. And we're excited about that.
Let me just, close out with a few comments. First of all, I want to thank Mark Beeger and his team at AOG again. And I can't emphasize enough that, we work shoulder to shoulder with AOG on so many things. In fact, Theo and Mark Beeger are neighbors up at West Point. I'm in contact with Bob McDonald, the chairman of AOG, quite a bit. And that relationship is very, very strong and getting stronger all the time. And thank you, Mark, for this.
Yes.
And then I just want to remind everybody, if you want us to talk to your the members of your organization, we're glad to do that. I'm glad to do it if Theo can't make it. And Corky Messner at gmail.com gave my number out. I got to look at this. The red chair in the background. That's my red chair. And I got Charlie Smithers as a classmate, and I got an email from Howie Place. Hey, Howie, how are you out there, buddy? I haven't heard from you in forever. But thank you so much, and it's great to hear Howie mentioned to me in the email that he didn't know much about AWPAA, and this process of informing people has been very helpful.
Corky, this is Mark. Just want to thank you for your leadership. You and Theo are champions of West Point, and to give us an hour like this on a Wednesday night is very, very special. So thank you both. Your association is here to serve our athletic team, the two of you, everybody that Theo described earlier so well, and it's an honor for us to do it. So thanks to my team for putting this together. Corky, Theo, again, thanks for your leadership, and let's go Army.
Be Navy.
Go be Navy. We'll see you. Thanks, everybody.
Beat everyone.
Hey, Andy Tedesco.